Good evening, class. Today, we're going to continue with our HO model, and we're going to be we've been treating the derivative theories emanating from HO model, and today we'll continue in that direction, and we're looking at Samuelson theorem and Robinsky theorem, and the two theorem can actually be found on your study sections 5 and 6 respectively. And I'm of the opinion that if we can actually treat these two theories, we can quickly finish with the derivative theory from H model, and we can then move to other theories. And I'll start sharing the screen with you so that we can actually be on the same page because of our interactions on these two topics. And I want you to pay attention very well to this because they are very minor, small theory, but they can actually be of immense benefits and they can actually complement your knowledge about each theory. Now, the two topic we'll be looking at today specifically are stop Samuel's theorem and Robinson's theorem, as I said earlier. I'm going to start by looking at what's what the first theorem entails, and after the extensive treatment of the first theorem, we're going to move to the second theorem. And what we need to do basically is that I will introduce most of this concept to you, and you flesh them up with your module, and actually use your module to flesh things up from your own end. Because most of the things I will be discussing with you, they are not new, and they are actually something that you will have already in your module. And let's move on. For Samuelson's basic theorem is actually describe relationship between the relative price of outputs and relative factor rewards, specifically real wages and returns on capitals. What this theory is all about is telling us is that if the reward for a particular factor, if there is change in the relative price of of price of the commodities. Let's take two commodities for instance now, car and that's automobile and cocoa. If the price of car increases, the capital that is intensively used in the production of car will get higher rewards compared to labor that is used intensively in the production of cocoa. That's what this theory is all about. That's the basic you know things that underline this theory. That is, if the reward that go to a particular commodity increases, the factor that is used intensively in the production of that commodity is going to increase. And if it increases, there will be production is likely to tend towards that particular production of that particular so excuse me, production of that commodities. I mean production of that commodity because the reward for that factor used successfully has increased. There's tendency for for an economy for factor to be substituted, for abundant factor to be substituted for scarce factor in an attempt to produce higher quantity of that commodity because of increasing the factor reward. What this story is essentially telling us is that if the such a thing happen, there's an increase in relative price, it's likely to actually propel an economy towards the production of a commodity that is not actually which the country is not is not heavily endowed or is not really endowed with. We can actually use the situation in Nigeria for instance now. Nigeria, because of the increase in price of crude oil, and because of the kind of dollar, the foreign exchange that is attached to production of crude oil, Nigeria tend to convert factor. Despite the fact that Nigeria is abundantly blessed as far as labor is concerned, we tend to produce crude oil that is capital intensive because of the reward. And when you now look at that, the factor price, the commodity price of crude oil and commodity price of commodity like cocoa in Nigeria, you can see that the increase in price of crude oil brings about increase in the relative price of cocoa, of crude oil and cocoa, and that actually scaled the production of the Nigerian economy towards the production of, of crude oil instead of cocoa, where we are, have abundant interest. The theorem states that under specific economy assumptions, there are several assumptions, like any other theories in the underlying this theory. A rise in the relative price of the goods will lead to a rise in the return to that factor, which is used most intensively in the production of that goods, and conversely, a fall in the return of other commodities. And when all of this happens, what happens to the other factors? And what happens to the commodities, the other commodity? It falls. The other factor, the return to other factor falls, and the economy is not likely to, to get inclined to continue production in that line of business. Now, the theorem postulates that an increase in the relative price. We can now look at the situation where an economy imposes tax on a commodity that by the theorem of by the Canadian theory, country is expected to by HO theory, country is expected to produce more and socialize more, where it has an endowed factor. But if this endowed factor use this endowed factor to produce the goods, and you trade with other commodity, and you import commodity produce. No, and if you now imposes tariffs on the commodity that is on your imports, meaning that the price of import will go up when the price of import goes up. Not, in an economy where a really, small quantity of that imported good is produced locally, the price, the increase in the price of that commodity, the imported commodity, will also increase the price of the local commodity that is produced. And conversely, that dictates that the country will be paying more for commodity which it does not have an endowment in its factors, meaning that the factor that is available to produce that commodity is relatively small compared to production of the other commodity. Let's use automobile and cocoa for instance now. Assuming like a country like Nigeria now, we produce cocoa and we import automobile. Within the Nigerian economy, we have automobile industry, which is not big enough, which is still growing. Meaning that by the time the time the Nigerian government imposes higher tariff on automobile, meaning that the price of automobile will also increase locally. If the price of the automobile increases locally, that means that the factors that we are not really endowed with, will be channeled towards the production of automobile because of the increase in the price of the automobile. Meaning that we are going to produce less of our cocoa, and we are going to substitute the labor used, the labor used intensively in the production of cocoa. We are going to substitute it for capital that is not abundantly available in the Nigerian economy. That means, that suggests that because of as a result of the increase in tariff, the production, the imposition of tariff in an economy can actually scale the production activities towards, providing the favorable conditions for the commodity, that is not naturally that country is not naturally inclined to produce at the expense of the other commodity, which there is intensive factor within the, that uses intensive factor that is endowed, that a particular country is endowed with. That means that this theory is basically telling us that if in, an increased tariff can actually bring about skillness, can actually skill about skillness towards the production of a commodity that the country does not have, that is not endowed with the factor used intensively in the production of that commodity. And thus, the real return to the nation's cash factor of production rise with the imposition of tariffs. That's what the study is telling us. For instance, when nation two, a capital abundant nation, imposes an import tariffs on a commodity X, it's L labor intensive. PX all over PX, which is the relative price of capital all over PY, rises for domestic producers and consumers, and so with the real wage labor. And if this nation's cash resources, that means if a capital abundant country produces more imposes tax on labor-intensive commodities. The country is going to, the relative price of capital is going to rise, And don't forget that the country is not endowed in capital, the country is not endowed with capital as a factor of production, but the country is endowed with labor. But because of the imposition of tariffs, it brings about increase in the relative price of capital, the relative price of labor in that economy. And that means that such country, will experience increase in the real wage. And if this happen, the country is going to suffer for it. That means a lot of imposition of tariff, the country is going to experience a major setback. The reason for this is that XY rises a lot of increase in tariff on commodity X. Nation 2 will produce more of commodity X and less of commodity Y. We can graphically explain what we just explained above. We have a position, which is we have position A and we have position B in before, in the state of autarky. The country was operating at position B, meaning that producing 120 of Y and just 40 of commodity X. Don't forget that the country is capital intensive, and we all know that commodity Y is capital intensive. That is, commodity Y uses more capital in its require more of capital in its productions, and commodity S require more of labor in its production because capital because the nation is capital intent, endowed, produces at point B that uses more of capital. But as a result of the imposition of tariff, and the increase in the relative price of commodity X as a result of the imposition of tariff. Now, the commodity, why we suffer? And why is it going to suffer? Because a particular labor that is actually used to produce commodity Y will be gradually being substituted to produce commodity X. And the country will find itself at point F, whereby the country has actually increased its volume of commodity X at the expense of commodity Y, by way of substituting capital, which is available for production of commodity Y, to commodity X. And because of the increase in the labor below, that means that imposition of tariff in most cases, if not judiciously followed through, can actually bring about a change in the productions, in the production possibility curve for any country. And that means that a country is going to suffer for it because it's going to be paying higher reward to a scarce resources, a scarce factor of production. By the time the country is producing that commodity F, that means it's going to produce 85 commodity Y, 85 unit of commodity Y, and at that point, we're going to produce 65 commodity Y, meaning that the production of commodity S has increased from 40 to 60, and the same thing, and the production of commodity Y has reduced from 120 to 85. And that is the effect, that's the likely effect of imposition of tariff for an economy that does not really apply wisdom in doing so. And the expansions in the production of commodity X, labor-intensive commodity, require L over K in proportion than it's released by reducing the output of commodity Y. It is K intensive. As a result of increase in the real wage rises, and you can actually read of this certain of actually explain. You can follow it through, but we can actually look at it from another graphical point of view, which we actually refer to Edgeworth box. The Edgeworth box shows the two extreme position. That's origin of OY, where we absolutely produce commodity Y, and origin of OS, where we absolutely produce commodity X. And but the fact that quantity of commodity Y and S is needed in an economy, the economy naturally have to produce the two commodities. As we discussed earlier, why is capital intensive. We use more of capital than labor, and before at the point of autarky, the economy is operating as commodity, at point. A, where more of capital good is produced and less of of commodity X that is labor intensive. And immediately the country starts introducing tariff, there will be a movement of A to F. F give us, because of the substitution of capital, which is the available resources for production of Y, and release of capital, which is available resources for production of Y, to converting it to labor, which is required for production of X. The country will find itself operating at step, at F, and moving from B position. If this happen, that means the country will actually be producing more of X, as against Y, which contradicts the factual endowment that such country is blessed with. And that's just it. Because when you now look at the two line, that's the broken line and the straight line, you can see that one is, broken line is steeper. That means the economy is substituting, it shows the substitution effect of B, of capital to labor, and the country is going to definitely suffer for it. And we can move forward and look at the detailed explanation as we have it here. When change the autarky positions, and you can read through. These are things I've actually explained. Point A is the autarky production point. Point B is the free trade production point, and point F is the production point with 100% import tariffs on commodity X. Note that point F is further away from origin and closer to origin Y, and you can easily digest all of this in line with explanations I just provided. And graphical, we can at least, if provide the graphical illustration of Stoffel Samuelson theorems, and can actually digest the basic underlying issues and tools in the theorems. We can, from there we can also quickly look at Robesque theorem. The theorem basically postulates that at a constant commodity price, an increase in endowment of one, and the theorem is basically telling us what the implication of increase in the endowment, assuming that a country experiences growth and there's increase in a particular endowment. What is going to be the effect on on output of the two commodities? It's going to increase the output of one commodity, or it's going to increase the output of the two commodities together, or it's going to increase the output of one commodity and leave the other commodity unchanged, or reduces the other commodities. That's what the theory is. That's basically the underlying idea about the theory. Obviously, theorem postulates that at constant commodity price, an increase in the endowment of one factor will increase by a greater proportion the output of the commodity intensive in that factors, and will reduce the output of the other commodity. Like the example I cited earlier under Samuelson theorem, is that assuming Nigeria is producing car and we are producing automobile and now if there is increase in capital, maybe as a result of foreign direct investment, hmm, now what is going to happen to the production of automobile that use more of capital than labor, and what's going to happen to cocoa that uses more of labor than capital? The automobile that uses more of capital will increase, while the cocoa that uses more of labor will decrease. That means that increase, a sort of increase, autonomous increase in factor endowment like capital, it can actually increase the commodity that uses more of that factors in its production, and that's what's actually the theory, but that's what underlies the theory. The theorem discusses in general the importance of economic growth on the nation trade. For instance, increase in the supply of labor naturally expand the production possibility disproportionately toward the production of labor intensive goods such as cocoa, while increase in the supply of capital is expanding disproportionately toward the production of capital intensive automobile. That's what the theory is basically telling us. That is, if there's increase in the fact in labor, and you have a commodity that uses more of labor, there's bound to be increase in the production of that commodity as a result of the increase in that factors. And why other commodity will go down definitely, because since the labor require, the factor required the production of the other commodity has not increased, and that's there's no way, it's not expect we are not expecting the production of that commodity to increase, and the production of the available factors that uses more of a particular available commodity we definitely will definitely go up. In a more practical sense, given an increase of 10% in supply of capital, why supply, we are looking at a situation where supply of capital increases by 10%, while supply of labor remain constant. That's just an hypothetical situation. And as a result of increase in the supply of capital, the sequence of events, we are looking at if there's 10% in increase in supply of capital and the supply of labor remain the same. What are those sequence of events that we are likely to witness? That's what we are contemplating. That's what we are looking at now. The output of both goods cannot increase. We definitely know that the output of both goods cannot increase because it will require 10% increase in labor as well for the output of both commodities to increase. Output of both goods cannot increase by more than 10%. If I thought there will be increase in the output of commodities in both goods, it cannot increase by more than 10%. Output of both goods cannot fail to rise by 10%. The two of them cannot fail because otherwise the increase in capital will not all be utilized. Now, this implies that the output of one goods must increase more than 10%, and that of the other does not, due to the fact that automobile is capital intensive, it must be automobile output that will definitely increase more than 10%. That means if this happens, what we are going to witness, most likely, the likely thing we are going to witness is that there will be increase in the production of automobile that uses more of increased factor of production. Consequently, the output of cocoa must actually fall. That's definitely going to happen according to the theory. According to the Robinson theory, the supply of capital intensive goods automobile rises more than 10%, while that of will come down. Will come down. We don't know the extent. The theory does not postulate or does not predict the extent to which the output of the other will come down. But we are very sure that it's going to come down. If the result from Robinson theorem is combined with the Exchange theorem, it clearly shows that economic growth can affect a nation's trade. Now, the fundamental point we are driving at, as far as this story is concerned, is that if the country does not manage its growth appropriately, as a result of increase in the factor endowment, it can actually alter or it can actually skew its trade activity, international trade activities. That's what we're actually driving at. That if the issue of growth is not properly managed, it has capacity to affect or to distort. Let me use the word distort to distort the international trade activities of a nation. That means that you might just be, exporting the goods that you're not supposed to export and importing the goods that are not supposed to import because of the increase in growth and the skewness or autonomous increase in the factor of productions. That's what we're talking about here. And it can be graphically explained. Consider a diagram depicting a labor constraint in red. That the labor constraint we have here is in red. It is steeper lower line and a capital constraint in blue. Capital constraint in blue. The fractal line. Suppose the production occur initially on PPF at point A, assuming that we have our production because this is constraint of capital and this is constraint of labor. The two meets at point A initially, and the productions of C1, S1 and C1 of commodity X is produced, and X1 of commodity X is produced, and C1 of commodity C is produced. At that point, we actually experience a balance, and equilibrium at that position. But when there is autonomous increase in a particular factor of production, in this situation now, we say that labor that is capital that is required to produce C increases, and the production, there will be a shift. There will be an automatic shift. If this automatic shift occur, that means the production will be at point B. And at point B now, we are producing C2, of commodity C, and we are producing X2 of commodity X, meaning that the commodity S has reduced from X1 to X2, and commodity C has gone up from C1 to C2. That means the new equilibrium point between the two, based on this diagram, is B, at which we produce more of C than X. We look at the explanation of the diagram. We can read it through, and if there's an increase in labor endowment, for instance, we will cause an outward parallel shift to the labor constraint. Thus, production shifts to point B, production of cocoa, the labor intensive goods, while rise from C1 to C2, production of automobile, the capital intensity will fall from X1 to X2. And there's just an extension of Robinski theorem, which look at what happened to the two if there's increase in the two-factor endowment simultaneously. What's going to happen? What's going to be the what is the likely effect if something like this happen? Increase in the two-factor productions. What is going to happen? And this one we use some mathematical theorem to explain this. We have A LC, which is equal to 2, we have ALX, which is equal to 3, and we have L, which is equal to 120. In another line, in another row, we have AKC, which is equal to 1, and we also have AKX, which is equal to 4, and we also have K, which is equal to 120. That is, capital is 120 and labor is also 120. L in this context represents labor endowment of the country, K capital endowment of the country, and C labor unit requirements in clothing productions, and AKC unit capital requirement in clothing productions, and LC unit labor requirement in steel productions, and KC unit capital production in steel productions. And the two constraints can be represented thus. Labor constraints is 2QC plus 3QX, which is equal to 120. That means that's a labor constraint. And the capital constraint is QC plus 4QX equal to 120. Give us capital constraint. A simple method, we can actually solve this somewhat, by using a substitution method, and we can easily multiply and first multiply the second equation by minus 1. When you multiply by the second equation by minus 1, it gives minus 2QC minus 8QC and minus 240. Adding these two equations vertically give this result. We add the two equations, that is equation 1 and equation 3, the new equation 3 we have, then have this equation. And eventually, you can plug that one in equation 2, that is Q 2QC and 3QY is equal to 120. Thus, the solution to the two equations give QC to be 24 and QS to be 24. Then the capital endowment. We are now looking at a situation whereby there's increase in the capital endowment to be to 150. This change the capital constraint, and when the capital constraint actually changes, we can have this. What we are fundamentally interested is that if there's a change in the capital alone, when you had it, we can just follow it through just the way we did earlier, and we're going to have solution will produce a QC which is going to be 6 and QS which is going to be 36. Meaning that because of the change in capital alone now, we now have a QS moving from 24 to 36, moving from 24 to 36, and a QC falling from 24 to 6. The initial equilibrium between the two was 24, 24. And we later realized that as a result of increase in the capital, which is the abundant labor used in the production of commodity S, there will be a rise in commodity S from 24 to 36, and then there will be a fall in QC. And that's a way to prove, mathematically proof. It can be maybe asked in the exam to give a mathematical proof of Rubisky theorems and the like, and you should be able to produce something like this to earn your full mark. And with this, we've come to the end of the lecture. We want you to ask, we provide an opportunity for you to ask questions as appropriate, and I will stop sharing my slide to welcome interactions from the students. We, I hope this is appropriate, well digested. You can actually consult your module for further